Standing his ground, President Obama defending his decision to bypass Congress on immigration today.
There are actions I have a legal authority to take as president, the same kinds of actions taken by Democratic and Republican presidents before me, that will help make our immigration system more fair and more just.
The president has taken actions that he himself has said are those of a king or an emperor, not an American president. We will not stand idle as the president undermines the rule of law in our country and places lives at risk.
Tough words as the showdown between the White House and Congress intensifies. We're going to talk to two border state congressmen from both sides of the aisle, Democrat Eric Swalwell from California and Republican David Schweikert from Arizona. Plus, bracing for more, no relief for residents in Buffalo, New York, who are already buried under more than a half dozen feet of snow. And today, rain that could lead to record-breaking floods. Plus, a challenge for you this Thanksgiving holiday. Self-made millionaire Frank McKinney shares his story, and now he wants to hear yours. Why we're thanking it forward this holiday season. Plus, what was once lost, now found? A new twist in the case of those missing IRS emails. Hello, everybody. I'm Uma Pemaraju. America's news headquarters, live from the nation's capital, starts right now.
I believe such an indiscriminate approach would be both unwise and unfair. Sometimes when I talk to immigration advocates, they wish I could just bypass Congress and change the law myself. But that's not how democracy works.
The problem is that, I'm the President of the United States. I'm not the Emperor of the United States. My job is to execute laws that are passed.
You have a power to stop deportation for all.
Actually, I don't. And that's why we're here. There are actions I have the legal authority to take as president, the same kinds of actions taken by Democratic and Republican presidents before me, that will help make our immigration system more fair and more just.
Well, as you just heard from our sound montage, up until this week, the president publicly declared he did not have the power to change laws unilaterally. In fact, on 22 previous occasions, beginning in 2008, Mr. Obama said he couldn't create his own immigration law. So now that he has set his executive orders in motion, the GOP and even some Democrats are crying foul, saying he is defying the Constitution and the American people. Joining us now, California Democrat Congressman Eric Swalwell. He's joining us here with his perspective. Thanks so much for being with us today.
Thanks for having me back, Uma.
So let me ask you, how do you reconcile the fact that the president publicly declared on 22 previous occasions that he proclaimed that he couldn't inject a power grab, bypassing Congress on immigration, and now is declaring that because he was tired of waiting on Congress to pass a bill, he has the right to issue executive orders that will protect at least 5 million undocumented immigrants from deportation? After all, there is no clause that gives the president more power because Congress doesn't do what he wants.
First, Uma, I think both sides on this issue can agree we have a broken immigration system, and the president is not creating new laws. He's using discretion that he and President Reagan and many presidents before him have used on this immigration issue. And his discretion now allows families who came to this country to seek what many of us were born into, opportunity, will not have to wake up this morning in fear of being removed. However, it also says that if you're a felon, if you're a violent criminal, you're on your way out. And so he's going to start to use his discretion. But we shouldn't be as concerned about the president's immigration action as we should be concerned about House Speaker Boehner's inaction on this issue. We had a substantive law passed in the Senate with nearly 70 bipartisan votes 500 days ago, and Speaker Boehner has refused to act on that.
You still didn't answer my question about the fact that on 22 previous occasions, the president said he did not have the authority to change or make his own law in that way by bypassing Congress. So now he's doing this. So why? So how do you reconcile what he has said on all those previous occasions, and now he's doing a huge flip-flop?
The president does not have the authority to make immigrants citizens. He does have the authority to use his discretion to not have them removed or deported at the same way that felons are. So we're focusing on felons and criminals and not on families.
But let me tell you this. There are fellow Democrats like Senator Joe Manchin and others who have publicly said they believe that an executive order at this time is the wrong thing to do, that he should have shared his ideas with Congress, and either in the lame duck session or when the new session convenes in January.
So, Uma, what's going on here is 500 days ago, the Senate passed a bill. And so I hear the emperor word being thrown around, but I wonder who is the emperor?
He said it. Those were his words he used. He said, I'm not the emperor.
Uma, is the emperor the person who is acting in accordance with what was passed in the Senate, or is the emperor the Speaker of the House who is silencing the voices on both sides of this issue by not bringing this up for a vote?
I hear you, but let me say this. The well-respected, high-profile constitutional scholar, Attorney Jonathan Turley, who's also a Democrat and who's also been very supportive of the president's policies, is saying what the president is doing right now is creating, in his words, an unprecedented threat. Let's hear more of what he had to say recently on Fox News.
What the Democrats are creating is something very, very dangerous. They're creating a president who can go it alone. And to go it alone is something that is the very danger that the framers sought to avoid in our Constitution.
What's your reaction to that?
The president is not going it alone. He is going with the Senate that passed a substantive bill. And the president and I do not want to see the president have to act unilaterally on this. Congress can pass a bill that will give certainty. The president, at best, has only told these immigrants that you do not have to wake up in fear of being deported, but it doesn't put them on any faster track.
But what about all the immigrants who have been waiting patiently in line for their turn at becoming citizens? Those folks, isn't that a slap against them? Because here all these millions of people are being protected who broke the law and got into this country illegally.
Uma, we're talking about apples and oranges. Immigrants who are waiting in line will not be cut by immigrants who will not have to fear being deported. The immigrants who will not have to fear being deported are they're no faster in line to becoming citizens. And that's actually the failure here of Congress to act, is they still have to wake up in uncertainty. They'll never get on this track until Congress passes a bill to becoming a part of America.
All right, Congressman, I appreciate you being here and joining us with your thoughts on this. Obviously, this is going to be a very controversial issue for some time, and we're going to continue to follow it. Now for reaction from the other side. Let's bring in Arizona Republican Congressman David Schweikert. Welcome. Great to have you here.
No, thank you, Irma.
Well, let me ask you this. Do you believe the executive order is now an invitation of thousands of illegals to just come on over, particularly if our economy gets better? What impact do you think this is going to have on border security?
Well, the fact of the matter is the world works on incentives and disincentives, and we're waiting to start hearing the stories once again, just like we had with the unaccompanied minors, with large populations coming out of Central America, coming towards our southern border. And we have documents that when the president did DACA, the deferred action, that they knew that this was going to create a wave of population heading to that border. But you were just hitting on some, actually sort of a brilliant subject. There's two things moving here. One is immigration policy, but one is the imperial presidency and the danger, the threat that is to our republic. Think of this. Eric, who's my friend who you just had on, if this had been George Bush doing an action like this, I believe the left would have been apoplectic. We're going to have to deal with the reality that the president does not have this type of unilateral authority.
Speaker of the House John Boehner said, in his words, the People's House will rise to this challenge. We will not stand by idle as the president undermines the rule of law in our country. Are you predicting that we're going to see spending legislation to stop the president?
My instinct, and we've had a couple discussions on conference calls the last 2 days, is we're going to try to do everything, whether it be legal approaches, whether states and those of us as members of Congress, and hopefully we will have standing, everything down to policy bills and spending bills. We need to actually rein in this type of unilateral executive action.
The current government funding measure expires December 11th. Congress must pass a new one. Do you expect a new measure loaded with language to block the president that could provoke a shutdown if the president vetoes it?
I actually don't, because I'm not sure we have the mechanical hooks to make that all work. Remember, the majority of the appropriations bills have actually made it out through the House of Representatives. So do we reach out, reassemble those, and put those out as a minibus, or some people refer to as an omnibus package, and the couple remaining bills, do those as a continuing resolution on short term? We have to sort of work through, both with our lawyers, legal, political policy, on how do you protect the operations of the U.S. government and actually rein back sort of the unilateral actions coming from this president.
The president seems to be saying we are, in essence, a selfish nation, as he referenced scripture in his Thursday night speech, if we are not open to spending trillions of additional dollars to accommodate people who broke the law and will now be protected from deportation. How do you respond to that?
I sort of wish the president had read a little bit further in the scripture, because I think he would have found the next couple paragraphs actually rolled back away from what he was trying to spin. The reality of it is the president really cared about border enforcement. He would have reached back to the legislation we passed in July. This last July, we passed a package that died in the Democrat-controlled Senate. Reach out, grab that, and work with us. There's this political theater coming from the White House that the House of Representatives hasn't been working on immigration policy. We just haven't been giving the Democrats what they want.
So you foresee a big fight ahead?
It's not only a fight about the president and protecting our republic, but also what is rational immigration policy? Does the United States become like the rest of the industrialized world, where you do a talent-based immigration system? Not what we do today, which is substantially a familial-based country of preference and origin system. And that's actually a big change, and I think a lot of the folks that demand comprehensive reform don't completely understand what that means.
Congressman, great to see you today. Thank you so much for joining us with your thoughts on this. And of course, we'll be checking back with you as this debate continues into the new year. Appreciate it. Now it's your turn to weigh in. We're asking on Twitter, what's your biggest concern about President Obama's immigration executive order? Tweet me your thoughts at @UmaPemaraju or @AHQDC, and we will definitely read some of your thoughts later on in our show.